Lonzo Ball has opted into the last year of his 4-year contract. We're going to talk about what that could mean for the Chicago Bulls and why, even though he opted in, it isn't the end of the story what the options the Bulls could do with his contract. We're going to get into all and more right after this.
You are now tuned in to Chicago Bulls Central, your number one place for all Chicago Bulls news and content.
What's going on, Bulls fans? Welcome to another episode of Chicago Bulls Central, your number one spot for everything Chicago Bulls related. I'm the host there, Haize, but more importantly, you guys can follow the channel at Bulls Central Pod on every social media platform we happen to be on. With that being said, let's go ahead and get into this content. So Lonzo Ball opted into the last year of his 4-year, $80 million contract. He will be paid $21.4 million next season. And, that has been an expected move. Typically players, especially with, not making a full return, he wasn't ever going to opt out of that deal because he's not going to get that out in the open market. So, guaranteeing that money for him was the smartest move for him and his agency and things like that. And it's not, like I said, should not be looked at as something that was at all unexpected. And if AK and Eversley are really doing their jobs, they would have expected it too. Now, that opens up the next phase to what happens with Lonzo Ball's contract. One of the more straightforward scenarios with that is simply that Lonzo Ball opts into his contract. Maybe he's cleared to play, and then he ends up playing on that last year of his contract, becomes an unrestricted free agent at the end of the season for the Chicago Bulls. And I know a lot of Bulls fans are, well, let me not say a lot. There's a section of Bulls fans that are hoping Lonzo Ball can come back, that he can play, and that he can make a big impact for the Chicago Bulls. And while I don't hold that mindset, you're out of basketball for almost 3 years by the time he makes it back to the NBA. It's more than likely not going to make a big impact. We've talked about it before. He will be on a back-to-back restriction, more than likely, maybe even a minutes restriction. He's going to miss some games just because of the plan, rest and things like that. And that means that at the most, I've said it before, Lonzo will be lucky to play 50 games next season, and that if no setbacks, no extraneous things happen, he doesn't have to rest a little while to kind of rehab that injury. That's if nothing happens, looking at the most 50 games. Lonzo Ball is not going to come back and all of a sudden be this difference maker for the Chicago Bulls to make a ton of difference on their roster. Now, that's not to say that the games that he does end up playing in, he can't make an impact in. That's a possibility, but it's just not going to up the ceiling a whole hell of a lot for the Chicago Bulls, at least not in my opinion. And then that opens up the next few possibilities for the Chicago Bulls, right? The next one being is that he's not cleared. And the Bulls just let the contract expire, which they could absolutely do even if he's not cleared. Let it just come off the books naturally and then, recoup that next season. Now that would, of course, suck. And that would be terrible. You look at the Bulls filing the disabled player exception this most recent season, and they just let that expire. It went through without using it because it would have sent them over the luxury tax. So, if Lonzo Ball comes back, or, if the Bulls don't do anything else with his contract now that he opted in, he still can end up just not playing on that contract and keep it pushing going forward, right? The contract expires at the end of the year, whether he plays or doesn't play. And then you have the nuclear option, I guess, in a lot of ways, is that the Bulls could petition the NBA to remove his salary via the career-ending injury exception and via the fact that he has not played since 2022. They have a high probability. The last things that I read kind of in the benchmarks of what that is do point towards that being a high probability that the Bulls could get that approved. Now, that doesn't necessarily, I've always kind of communicated it as it adds the money back on the books. That's not necessarily true, right? You don't just get $20 million added back on your books where you can do anything with, but it does allow you that flexibility to sign another player for that value or, amount of that. So that's the options that are ahead of the Bulls now with Lonzo Ball. We know that he has been doing more basketball activities. He's still not cleared for 100% contact. We have not heard anything else at all to say that he will be cleared anytime soon. So the Bulls have questions ahead. They have decisions that they need to make with that. And another option outside of just the contract piece of it, could they, which is something that KC Johnson actually talked about earlier in the season around the trade deadline, is the Bulls could look to include Lonzo Ball's contract in a much larger trade. And we talked about on today's earlier daily episode how there is expected to be a lot of movement around the NBA this offseason because of teams wanting to really get back and be contending, or teams looking to dump salary, go to a rebuild. And Lonzo Ball is a theoretical piece. Now that you know that it's going to be a 1-year expiring contract, regardless of what his health situation works into, we've seen teams take players that have no hope in playing as an expiring contract. Hell, we've done it before. Al-Farouq Amino, anybody, right? So there is a chance of that. Now, what's the likelihood of that? That would mean that the Bulls are probably giving up other assets that teams want, which may mean future first-round picks, which we don't really know how interested in that the Bulls are going to be. But this is not necessarily a path to mean that Lonzo Ball is going to return. It doesn't mean that Lonzo Ball is going to be cleared. None of that has been set or dictated as of yet. But it is an expected move in this offseason, and now we can eliminate that question on if he's going to opt in, even though should have never really been there. And none of the episodes that I've talked about the free agency, I've never really gave it an option that Lonzo could opt out of that contract. So it just is what it is. But let me know what you guys think down below. Which option do you think the Bulls are most likely to go with? I know a lot of people are probably going to say, oh, well, we know the Bulls aren't going to do anything because they haven't done anything, and they've earned that criticism, right? So we'll see what ends up happening to that. But the Bulls have options in front of them. Let me know what you guys think they should do. Make sure you guys are following the show at Bull Central Pod. You can send us any feedback, questions, comments, concerns. BullCentralPod@gmail.com. Lastly, if you want to leave a text message and our voicemail for the mailbag, the number to do so, 773-270-2799. We are the #1 spot for everything Chicago Bulls related, thanks to you guys. And like I like to end every episode on, go Bulls. Love you guys. See you right if you can, y'all. Peace.
This has been a presentation of the Break Media.